Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the show. This is Reservations, and I'm Rain Wayland.
And I'm Gustavo Garbanzo.
So, as I told you, to prepare for the final season of Big Mouth, I rewatched the entire show.
Yeah.
And I got to the episode where, I think it was season 1, where this sexy book is being passed around the middle school, and all the girls talk about one of the characters, Gustavo. They're like, "Oh, it's about Fatima and Gustavo."
Yeah.
And then Gustavo. Yeah, dude. And then Gustavo keeps showing up throughout the show. Missy writes a fanfic with Nathan Fillion and Gustavo, and it's just Nathan Fillion. He's just the character within her fanfic is just Nathan Fillion.
Okay.
Yeah. Speaking of which, dude, season 8, banger.
Well, that's good.
I'm sad it's gone. I'm pretty sure I've spoken about it on the show. I love Big Mouth. I think it's mainly for my love of Nick Kroll and John Mulaney, but I think the show is just so funny, and it's just unrelenting humor. But season 8 was really good. I was slightly worried if they were going to stick the landing or not, and I think they did. Although I'm always disappointed when anything ends, so I was a little disappointed in the ending, but it was still a good run. I would hope that maybe Netflix will do a complete series set, since they've been doing that stuff with Walmart, so I can buy the whole set. That'd be pretty rad.
I bought BoJack Horseman, the complete series, off the app. So
yeah,
I was able to order it online. It was from Walmart. And it's really nice. Came with a slipcover. It's got discard. It's legit. So
nice.
Maybe one day they'll do a complete series of Big Mouth, and you can buy that.
Hell yeah. Well, and speaking of BoJack Horseman, that's my next show that because I downloaded the full show on Netflix and watched it at work.
Cool.
And that's what I did with BoJack Horseman, and I started it today, and one of my coworkers looked over my shoulder and she was like, "What are you watching?" I was like, "Oh, this is BoJack Horseman." I'm like, "Do you know it?" And she was like, "No." It's like, "Oh, okay."
That's a shame.
I know, dude.
Because we've talked about it before on the show when I was rewatching it, not that long ago. It starts off as the funniest show you've ever seen, and it'll end as the saddest show you'll ever see. It's truly incredible.
Yeah, I always forget that season 1 is fucking hysterical.
Yeah.
The whole is this because I didn't want to start have a family with you, Princess Carolyn? I never explicitly said that. It was your actions. The whole what no, and he tips over the fucking baby and steals a car. "Oh no, sorry, officer, I was just running from my girlfriend who I don't respect enough to have a baby with." Aren't you the horse from horsing around? Dude, yeah, it's so good. I remember the first time when I was getting really into the show, when it takes that turn, when fucking Sarah Lynn dies. I was like, wait, what? I thought this was supposed to be a comedy.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude, I'm excited to actually finish it this time. Again, that's another show, another really good Netflix animated show that I'm sad is gone, but here we go.
Pretty rewatchable, man. It's so linear. Every decision, it's sort of like Breaking Bad, where every decision BoJack makes affects him to a certain extent, but really it affects the people around him, and those effects stay through the duration of the show. So everything that he does causes some sort of harm to someone, and that sticks around. That doesn't go away. And it starts in season 1. So
yeah, I was gonna say, I think the the biggest thing is him stealing the D from the Hollywood sign.
Yeah, that sticks. That sticks through the duration of the show.
Um,
Yeah, yeah, it's a great show.
but yeah, man, yeah, like I said, I'm excited to actually finish it this time.
And those viewers
Well,
who are actually watching this episode on YouTube, there's a fly in here, and so I'm going to try to ignore it. But if you see it, just know I'm aware of it, and I
it,
am trying to, because
if you see,
we're in our new house, and so I'm in a room, not the living room. I'm in my movie room, and there's a fly trapped in here.
you know, I was just about to say we have two really big things to announce. One, that you guys moved into your new home. I'm excited to see it whenever Ash and I are able to come down there and visit you guys. Well, more come up. We're down. Y'all are up. Come up and visit you guys. And two, Ashley and I, we talked about it the week before last. Ashley and I saw Sinners finally, and it was rad. It was a great time. I'm so glad I got to see it in theaters before it left. You know, the Rotten Tomatoes consensus said that Ryan Coogler made one of the most original blockbusters, and I couldn't have said it better myself. It's so good. Like, I was telling everyone at work about it, and I was like, this is how, like, I didn't feel like they were really understanding how much I love the movie. So I was like, guys, I would pay money to go see it again in theaters. That's how good it was. And they were
It
like,
really is good.
they're like, whoa.
And you know, with Ryan Coogler, you know, God, I love Ryan Coogler. He said on a podcast, and it's related to, you know, me at the moment, because I've recently just started watching the X-Files.
Noise.
On Hulu, yeah, it's pretty rad. Definite recommendation. If you haven't ever seen this 30-year-old show, you should watch the X-Files. But Ryan Coogler said that's his next project, is the X-Files. So
like a movie reboot.
He just said he's working on the X-Files.
Dude.
Yeah, he said on last.
Fucking. Dude, if he gets to work with David Duchovny and fucking yeah, dude. Dude, fuck yeah, dude. That would be so rad.
Yeah, dude.
Man, but yeah, Sinners is great. If it's still showing at your local theater, go see it, please.
Yeah.
Don't wait till it's on streaming. I've had too many people say that to me. No, this movie was made to be seen in a movie theater.
That's how people are now, man.
Yeah, and like, look, I was telling Mom this. Like, I'm only like that when it comes to a movie I'm not that excited about, or I don't want to waste the time. Like, I'm kind of feeling like that with Lilo and Stitch, the live action. Like, I did want to see it in theaters, but now I'm like, you know what? I'm okay if I wait till it's on Disney Plus. But like, fucking, like a movie I'm so excited about, I'm gonna go to the theater and see it. Like, this is a bad example to compare Lilo and Stitch to this, but when the Odyssey comes out, you bet your ass I'm gonna see that in a theater.
Yeah, and Guillermo del Toro's. Well, I think Frankenstein's gonna be on Netflix.
Yeah, I don't think they're doing a limited release, which is disappointing.
Or Black Phone 2 or something. You know what I mean? Something like.
Oh, dude,
like really excited about. You know,
I'm glad you said that. I just saw the trailer for Black Phone 2 last night. Holy Jesus!
And I met that guy's dad.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, go support your local theater. Who cares if it's an AMC or a Regal? Just,
and again, I've
go to the movies.
And I said it late in the episode. I forgot which. I think it was American History X.
Yeah.
Is who fucking cares? However you want to watch a movie, watch the movie. As long as you watch the movie, you know, as long as you are enjoying the movie, who cares, right? I think, you know, that's my thing, because I don't like it when people try to gatekeep and be like, well, you didn't really see it if you didn't see it in the theater, or, you know, watching it at home, you know, was fine, but don't watch it on your phone. It's like, fuck you, man. What if that's all I have? You know,
Exactly.
what
Yeah.
if it's, you know
No.
what I mean? Like, I don't like that kind of shit. I think if you want to watch Oppenheimer on your iWatch, you go ahead. Okay?
No, and see, no, and I agree with that. I'm just saying for a brand new movie,
Yeah.
don't wait 3 more months till it's on streaming. Go see it now. Go enjoy it now.
Yeah.
Then that way in 3 months you can be like, oh man, when is it going to be on streaming? Like I want to watch it again.
Yeah.
Then you can watch it however you
Yeah.
want.
I'm still
Sorry.
waiting for someone to pick up The Monkey because I never got to see that in theaters, and I don't want to rent it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I really wanted to watch it, but I think it's only. I think you have to rent it right
You have to
now.
rent it right now. Longlegs was on Hulu, which is Neon, so hopefully Hulu will pick it up because it's also Neon. So
Yeah, but see, hey, we got to see Longlegs in theaters with Kale.
yeah,
So
that's right.
Kale, who was 4 seats down from us. Anyway, well, welcome back, everyone. Sorry this episode is a week late. I had some stuff going on over the weekend. Jeremy had some stuff going on over the weekend. So we just felt it would be better if we just wait for about a week. And you know, I was kind of hoping that maybe that week would help us, and I don't think it did. But with that being said, Hazel, sorry, we had to put out some insect traps around the apartment, and the dogs are like fascinated with them. So we've had to hide them in strategic places that they can't get to them, but I'm still wary. But anyway, so Jeremy, why don't you remind everyone what we're going to attempt to talk about today?
Okay, so this week we are discussing Phil Tippett's personal magnum opus. Bless you.
Thank you. Sorry, buddy.
That's okay. Phil Tippett's magnum opus masterpiece of, personal just passion. And that's Mad God.
Yeah. I remember. Sorry, I'm trying not to sneeze again.
Oh.
I can feel another one coming.
Yeah, I can sneeze.
So I remember when the movie came out. I remember seeing it like on all like the targeted ads on like Instagram and stuff like that. And I'm like, what is this? Like, what the fuck is this? And I never took the time to watch the trailer. Of course, now after you gave that tease 2 weeks ago, I do remember who Phil Tippett is. He is the main reason why Star Wars had such great stop motion, especially in Empire. But I just remember seeing this movie, seeing it everywhere, and I'm just like, what is this? And then you gave me a not bootleg copy. And I was gonna watch it. I was like, okay, you know what? If Jeremy thinks this movie is good enough to not bootleg,
buy it twice.
I should definitely check it out. And I just never got around to it. Did you watch this day one when it hit Shudder?
That's a great question. Probably. Because I was pretty excited about it. I was waiting for it to be on there. Sort of like with like Late Night with the Devil. Like I was just waiting for it to be on Shudder. I would check all the time. Because Shudder's not fantastic about telling you when something's going to be on there. So it's just like every Friday I would check or whatever. And yeah, I probably saw it day one. And I think I might have been drunk or something. I watched it.
Not a way to watch the movie. He was drunk.
I mean, I wasn't like super like wasted. I was just like, I was pretty tipsy, but and I watched it and I was just blown away by it. I thought it was so cool, and gross and just so interesting to look at, and it's monumental in scope and size. And it's just so different than anything I've ever seen before.
Yeah. When I was kind of telling Ashley about it, I was like, Jeremy said that there's no dialogue. I was like, so I guess it's more of like a visual feast rather than a, an auditory one. Um, but I did enjoy it. I did think it was also very gross. Um, but I did enjoy it. And maybe that's just a testament to I just love stop motion. I think stop motion is an art form that definitely needs to be preserved. I mean, we've talked about multiple stop motion films on the show.
Yeah.
Um, but I was just more impressed with the fact that this was a labor of love. This was like the definition of a passion project.
Yeah.
Not fucking megalopolis or whatever the fuck. No, this I feel like this is a passion project. That Phil took 30 years of his life that he was like, yeah, no, this is what I want to do. I want to complete this. Yeah, and it's, you know what? More power to Phil is what I have to say. Like, you know what, Phil, you do you. So that being said, Jeremy, I guess your best try to summarize this movie.
I can try. It is sort of a non-narrative. It is, put together in these, segments that are sort of followed by unrelated segments, um, and it's just sort of a overall tone and feeling of abandonment, dread, pain, suffering. Um, but I guess our main character kind of is this assassin, at least for the first 30 minutes.
Yeah.
And he's unnamed. We don't know his backstory. We don't know where he's coming from. We just know that he's being lowered into the depths of this world that is just full of horrors, right? Um, and we follow him around as he is, using this map that keeps falling apart, and he's trying to look for something and find something, and you don't quite know what it is. And then he gets captured and tortured and gets surgery performed on him, and then that's the end of that guy. And so you're like, okay, well, now he's the guy we were following. And then it cuts to other segments um, of seemingly unrelated things that are in this world, and then we get another assassin that comes down, and he's sort of traveling around in this dune buggy and or I guess Jeep or whatever. And then we get this plague doctor, death-like character that gets this um, infant worm thing from the first assassin and takes it to this alchemist that is performing these awful experiments on these tiny little living creatures that he's playing God with. And then this alchemist creates new life and creates a new universe. But as soon as the universe produces mankind, mankind destroys it, just like it did this one, right? That's sort of Mad God in a nutshell. Yeah, man. Haley and I, this will make sense in a minute. Haley and I have recently been watching the show Poker Face on Peacock.
Okay.
Natasha Leone. It's fantastic. It's like female Columbo, you know.
Well, and it's Ryan Johnson, right?
Well, yeah, it's right. So, in one of the episodes, Nick Nolte, who we love and who is in the phenomenal film Warrior, if you haven't seen it or listened to our episode on Warrior, please do. Nick Nolte plays a stop motion animator, and he's working on a project when Charlie, Natasha Leone's character, meets him, and she asks what it's about, and he says it's a non-narrative, and it kind of resembles Mad God, and he's sort of like a Phil Tippett type character. I read in the trivia that it was most likely an homage to Tippett and Mad God, the stop motion thing he was working on. So, like, to me, Mad God is a non-narrative. It is a visual representation of the abandonment of a human race by its god, right?
Okay.
It is a representation of pain and suffering, of a world that betrayed its creator, right? Because we have that opening text of the Leviticus quote
Mm-hmm.
in the Old Testament, and you get the idea that this God in this world is a mad God. He's angry at the human race, and he is a very vengeful, very Old Testament type of deity, and that he has forsaken them, he has abandoned them, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the outcome of what it's like to be abandoned by your creator. There's a lot of religious iconography um, in this film that is up to interpretation, I suppose. The one of the only live action characters, played by Alex Cox, um, who is credited as Last Man, um, who he seems to be in charge of the assassins.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one who sends everybody down there to the hellscape below, and he has these religious um, garments, these religious clothing that he just cycles through and chooses what to wear, um, which you probably didn't notice because in the foreground was his gigantic fingernails, and
Yeah.
so that was probably distracting. He does put on a Jewish type um, robe and yarmulke when
Mm-hmm.
he's done, and so that's really interesting. I don't quite know what to make of that. Maybe it's like he chooses which religion to associate himself with in order um, to control those around him, perhaps. Um, but I don't know. Who knows?
Your guess is as good as mine, man.
Well, I think that's
Um,
sort of the gift of this movie taking so long to be made, is that there there is really no through line narrative, because he's working on it on the weekends, and
mm,
and he abandons the project for a few years, and he comes back to it for a few years, and it's this back and forth, and it takes forever, and it just becomes just a montage of horror and suffering after a while that kind of has connections, um, but not really. Um, but there's some really interesting visual language that's going on. I believe we talked about. I forgot what episode we talked about it on, but we talked about the allegory of the cave. What episode? No,
oh man.
it doesn't matter. But there's that sequence of the assassin um, in the operating theater, where we do
Mm-hmm.
have an audience that is looking through a sheet, so it's just silhouette, right?
Right.
And so they're not seeing the horror and the gore and all of
Yeah.
that. It's interesting.
It really is because you know I was really trying. I was really trying to understand what I was seeing. Especially when we get to that scene in particular, because the audience is real, is a live,
Uh,
it's a live action. I don't want to say that, but he got real actors to do that scene, and so it adds another layer of surrealism
yeah,
to this this just interesting story of in this hellscape, you know. It's I don't know, man.
Well, okay, so like I saw something that was that had mentioned that some of it is like Dante's Inferno, right? The deeper he goes, like the different layers. Um,
I had
and
that thought.
yeah, and they represent. I didn't get that full analogy. I didn't get that allegory to me. I was so mesmerized by the ever changing scale, um, which made it all the more surreal and uncanny and unsettling. Where he's got these itty bitty tiny people, right? Like those gnome like people that were played by actual actors, right? Um,
Hmm.
which are at his feet. But then he ends up at that level where the people are in electric chairs and they're gigantic, you know.
Yeah.
And so this ever changing scale, as you know, compared to our assassin, I mean, to me was just so mesmerizing. I couldn't believe it. I thought it was so interesting and unsettling. I I loved it. I thought that it was so effective um, with the way that he's building this world, um, however terrifying it might be.
Yeah, and I agree. That was something I also really liked is that like we would get a sense and kind of get used to the scale, and then Phil would change it up and we'd get, gnomes, and then we'd get these, giant monumental um creatures. It just, again, like what you've been saying, the visual language was so striking. um and I did, again, I really enjoyed it. I was just like, what does it mean? Of course, what we've talked about in past episodes, particularly those of Lynch, is not everything has to have a meaning. Um, but I was still like, but what does this mean? And I saw a video, maybe you've seen the same video, where someone kind of was dissecting the movie and explaining that the movie is a representation of pain.
I saw the exact
And
same video. Continue.
yeah, yeah, and that I was like, okay, that makes sense. Um that would make sense as to why we're seeing what we're seeing, why um it, why there's no dialogue, why it seems like everyone's so hostile towards one another,
Well, yeah,
you know.
it's basically hell, right? Interpreted as, um, especially since our assassins are being lowered down, um,
Hmm.
that it is some sort of hell, or a representation thereof. Although I did like that analysis that it is a representation of pain itself, um, and how humans react to pain, how humans um, absorb, not absorb, but experience pain.
Hmm.
Um, and I liked it. I don't know if I think that that he nailed it, you know, um,
Yeah.
because then the other video I saw was talking about the religious iconography, and this guy didn't even talk about that. So um, yes, he is correct, and so is the other guy, and so is whomever else has a theory. Um, like when they're doing surgery on the first assassin and they're taking out all of this treasure and all these coins in gold. Um, it's sort of like what man covets most is wealth and and riches and material items. Um, and that's not what they're interested in. They're interested in this being that inhabits the assassin, and you can interpret that as his soul, perhaps, or you can interpret it as some sort of um, immaculate conception. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Especially the way that death, I assume it's death, sort of covets it and protects it and takes it to where um, he needs to go, which is to that alchemist. Um, yeah, yeah, I don't know. It's it's such an interesting movie, and I really, really enjoy it. And it's mostly just I like how it looks. I like, especially the surgery scene. I know that's like the most upsetting scene probably, but
Yeah.
I just love the and there's a word for it. I don't remember it at the moment. Um, you
Visceral.
Well, no, when you have live actors and you are still animating them in stop motion, it has a word. It's a different type of
Okay.
animation when you're using a live person. Um, Tetsuo the Iron Man also uses this technique. And it's just so unsettling, and it's so, you're right, it is visceral, and it is um, visually compelling. Um, yeah, it's upsetting and it's gross and it's scary and disgusting. Um, I like it. I can't explain why, but I like
I agree. I mean, that definitely was the grossest scene in the entire movie, especially when they're just like pulling things out of him.
it. Yeah,
Just like, okay, is this gonna just go on forever now? But again, I think that was the point that Phil was kind of going for. That, like I said, it is meant to be very visceral and very, you know, um, yeah. I I have more questions than answers, dude. Especially when during the surgery scene,
mm-hmm.
he bores into the assassin's head and hooks up his mind to the TV.
Yeah,
And it's almost like we're seeing memories, but also a different assassin, not the same one we'd just been following, on like a different mission. So, like, I don't know how to interpret. I don't know how to interpret that either.
I don't know. I don't know. It seems like they got what they wanted, but this surgeon, wanted to do some more experiments and some more exploring within this assassin. Um, by the way, the only reason I'm calling him an assassin is IMDb. You know what I mean? They
Yeah,
don't say explicitly in the film that that's what he is. Because I don't know what he is. I don't know what they are. You know, much like I don't know what those little guys are that are these sort of just basic human shaped blobs. You know,
yeah,
there's a lot of them. Maybe they're meant to be human souls. You know,
yeah,
I don't know. I know that the battle scene with those guys took, I think, 3 years to finish, and Phil Tippett just used um, film students to finish it.
yeah.
Um,
Yeah, I did read that he that he asked like these film students to come in on a weekend to get film experience.
for 3 years.
Yeah,
I mean, it's something that it just blows my mind, and it's it's how I think people are, and I'm sure I've discussed it before on the show that um, I think when people are so blown away by things like I am, like like that one scene took 3 years, right?
right.
Um, you're like, oh my god, like that's such an astronomical amount of time. I can't even fathom working on the same thing for that long. For a few minutes um, of film, um,
Yeah,
and it's just because it's just work. If I put in the work, I'd do the same thing. You know what I mean? It's just I'm just so blown away by the commitment and the passion and the work that goes into it. I think that's why I love stop motion so much. Stop motion, it's so precise and it's so delicate. I mean, the filmmakers, there are no happy accidents in stop motion.
Mm-hmm.
It's, you know, painstakingly put together. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's just amazing.
I agree. Yeah, man, I agree. Because you're right. It does have to be very precise and very honestly careful. Because if they go too fast on one frame, they'll have to redo it, or not fast enough. It requires a level of patience that I don't think I have. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, I making a flip book took a level of patience that I still didn't have. And even then, when I completed it, it was probably only like 10 pages. Like, it wasn't anything extravagant.
If you asked me to do that right now, I would complain.
Like, ugh.
I would, yeah, I would complain because I'd be like, "Oh, it's so tedious. I don't want to," you know.
Yeah.
But you're exactly right. That's exactly the kind of commitment and patience it takes, and it has to come through. It's like someone making a stop motion film. You can't do it if you don't love it. Like, you have to love it. You have to put your whole mind, body, and soul into this project. You have to love it because you're going to be doing it for years.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
Agreed.
yeah. I mean, it's crazy. And so I think that's why I respect it so much, because you know that the person making it believes in the story, loves the story, and is willing to tell this story. Because it's like, with some live action films, you have directors that they don't want to do it, but it's a paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
That does not exist in this medium. No
No,
one's
yeah, for
doing
sure.
this if they don't want to.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. It reminds me a lot of Gore Verbinski making Rango.
Okay.
He made Rango because he thought making an animated film would be easier than making a live action film. Because, he was coming off of like the third Pirates of the Caribbean movie by that point.
Yeah.
And he was like, yeah, I think I could do an animated film. It'll be easier. And he quickly learned that it's significantly harder. Now, granted, of course, Rango was a full CGI film.
Yeah.
I think it would have been really cool as a stop motion, but full CGI. So, I mean, the fact that these animators for CGI, and especially Phil and his team, and all the different creatures that they had to move, like, it's mind-boggling.
Yeah.
The level of commitment. And I think that was something I was telling Mom today, that was something that I really appreciated about the movie, is that we got the completed thing, that Phil, didn't waste 30 years making this and then just be like, yeah, you know what? I've done all I've wanted to do. We're done. That he compiled all this footage together and still gave us a fairly cohesive story.
Yeah, a few years before, he would release certain chapters every once in a while.
I noticed that on Letterboxd.
Yeah, certain segments he would release when they were completed. And I guess that's why it sort of feels disjointed, or there's not really a through line. It's sort of like if I had a go-to, like, this is my favorite animator or my favorite filmmaker that uses multimedia, of course, it's Don Hertzfeldt, right?
Oh yeah.
And he did that with It's Such a Beautiful Day, where he has these segments of Bill that he released solo. And then he just compiled them all together and made It's Such a Beautiful Day. It's the same thing. Yeah.
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 Sorry.
Shout out to our It's Such a Beautiful Day episode. One of my
low-key, I think about that movie at least once every 2 weeks. Like, it'll just kind of randomly pop into my head and I'm like, oh yeah. Or Ashley and I the other day were quoting, of course, rejected commercials to one another.
Yeah.
I was like, oh yeah, that's right. He also did It's Such a Beautiful Day. But yeah, no, I'm really glad that Phil, again, in a sense, saw the project through, completed it, because, you know, that level of passion, I think, should be celebrated and should be experienced. Which again is why, even for its lack of plot, its lack of dialogue, I really enjoyed the movie. You know, certain parts of it made me kind of think of Jim Henson in like how, you know, they were puppeteered.
Sure.
Other parts, you know, kind of gave me like Ridley Scott and Blade Runner vibes of being very like dark, and, you know, this world is sort of lived in, you know.
So okay. So as I was looking, I wanted to see what he's doing, what he has coming up, and that's nothing. But he made the puppets on that episode of Poker Face. So
that's cool.
Nick Nolte literally was playing Phil Tippett. So no wonder I thought they looked so much like Mad God figures. Yeah, so that's fine. But yeah, he's really slowed down since then. I guess, you know, it takes a lot out of you, you know.
I would suspect so. You know, like having dedicated so much time of your life to try to complete this thing that you're passionate about. You know, I'm sure it's like, okay, now that it's done, I can just hang out. I can chill. You know,
in a way.
Because I'm sure he doesn't have another 30 years to work on another project. As sad as it is, because Phil's a little old, so I don't think he's got it in him to do another 30-year long project. Not that I'm sure he intended for this project to take 30 years.
Trying to see, because like I watched an interview with him today, and he was talking about his influences, right? His early influences were King Kong and Sinbad. So those were like from the 30s and the 40s. Sinbad has a longer title. I just don't remember it at the moment. And it has Sinbad has like this really cool stop motion Cyclops, you know? And of course King Kong, famously the stop motion creature interacting with real humans in the 1930s King Kong. But then he mentioned a painter, and I'm trying to remember or find the paintings because they showed examples of those paintings. I go, yep, that's Mad God. That's the vibe he was going for, and that's the tone and the like the overall look and feel of Mad God, especially in the very beginning with the tower. That resembled sort of the Tower of Babel, which is which also reminded me of Metropolis, which also has, you know, this sort of society that has abandoned their god, in a sense, and it also has religious iconography. He didn't mention that though. Yeah, I don't know, but uh, yeah, man, this movie is interesting, to say the least. It is fascinating to look at. Even the score is incredible, um, and the sound design is out of this world.
Yeah.
Every crunch of the feet, to the surgery, to
Oh God.
uh, the monsters that are poking each other in the eyes and like hitting each other with sticks, and you have that guy in the beginning that's wearing like a suit jacket, but he doesn't have legs, and then that little horrible, ugly monster-like thing that cuts him up. Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
But I think one of the shots that reminded me that this takes so long, because it kind of looked like a late '80s, early '90s sort of an aesthetic, was the monkey on the operating table.
Mm-hmm.
That sort of looked like that era of filmmaking, with the
Right.
lighting and the haze, and just the way it looked in general. It just kind of looked older, um, to me. But
I'm glad you brought that up because when I started watching it yesterday, and I mentioned to Ashley, I was like, uh, this took him 30 years to make. Ashley goes, "That's interesting." She's like, "I wonder if you'll see any changes in quality." And for me, at least, the films felt pretty consistent.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, there was. I remember seeing that, and I'm like, that feels kind of out of place a little bit. But I just felt like just because it's a monkey on an operating table.
well, and it sort of highlights the lack of humanity, because the assassin has the opportunity to save those animals and that monkey, and he doesn't.
Mm-hmm.
He presses on with his mission. God knows what that was. It did stress me out that his map kept falling apart.
Yeah.
It's like, oh,
Yeah, every time he'd unravel it, it just.
yeah, like, ooh, you should probably pick that up, and he doesn't. Like, all right. Well, and I think the Last Man, I think he fixes it to where it's a different material. Um,
It almost looked like skin.
Skin, yeah, I think it was like skin of some sort of being, um, and that sort of helped that problem of it not being so brittle, and it's so fragile. Um, which, yeah, it being skin, just Jesus,
Yeah.
man.
Well, I mean, it was made by witches, so I'm sure it is skin.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Next thing you know, he'll have a skin witch skin hat. That's cursed.
Stop.
Dude, shout out, Laszlo Cravensworth. What We Do in the Shadows.
um, what I found most interesting was at the very end, when the alchemist, takes that baby worm,
Mm-hmm.
crushes it, liquefies it, makes it into gold, and then grinds the gold, right?
Yeah.
And he creates this universe. I liked the visual language of things like moving backward, um, like reverting back to a time that was less hellish, I suppose.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said at the beginning, it's more like this rebirth, this creation of a new, um, and it inevitably is ruined by mankind, just like this world does. Um, and I just found that so interesting, and that was sort of I guess, a commentary on um, mankind sort of hurting itself in this weird cycle um,
Mm-hmm.
of violence and greed and all of this. Is how I interpreted that. But then again, that might not be right. You know,
Yeah. Yeah. It may just be that Phil had this idea on the day and was like, "Oh, this is what we're gonna do now."
it's definitely not on the day. I mean, that's the thing.
Yeah.
But,
In that year gap,
yeah, that
you'd be
year that
like,
he made that.
you'd be like, "Oh, this is it." Yeah. Yeah. Man, honestly, like I applaud you for gleaming some sort of something out of this because I couldn't.
I mean, on first watch,
Again,
impossible. On first watch,
yeah,
you're just like, this is weird and gross. I don't know what's going on. You know, I think if you watch it again, which I do recommend,
I probably will get around to it.
yeah, I mean, it's a fun watch. You know, it's movies like this that I'm not saying that this is what the movie's good for. The movie is good for watching, absorbing, and analyzing, understanding, and trying to come up with some sort of meaning from it. I believe that to be true. I think it's also good if you're like having a Halloween party, just have it on in the background. You know,
Yeah,
people just
yeah.
look up and be like, "Ugh, Jesus,
Oh,
God."
you know what's crazy is I'd started the movie. Hopefully you don't get mad at me. I started the movie, took a little bit of a nap. I paused,
It's okay.
took a little bit of a nap, woke up. I had 35 minutes left in the movie.
Oh, nice. You got pretty.
Started eating, finished eating, and then that's when I felt like it got really gross, and I was just like, because I'd already made it through the surgery scene by that point.
Well, that's good.
But yeah, then I was just like, oh, I'm so glad I completed eating before I got to this part.
There's only been one movie that I watched like while eating that I had to pause the movie, finish eating, and then keep going, and that's the documentary on Gigi Allen. Hated it. Holy Jesus. It's one of the grossest things I've ever seen. But yeah, man, it's hard to describe. It's hard to recommend to people too. It's like,
Yeah,
what do I tell them? It's like it's this movie that doesn't really have a plot or a narrative. There's not really any dialogue. It's really visually interesting and it's gross and but it's fascinating and it's thought provoking and you can derive meaning from it. It just takes some time and it takes some work and you gotta want it, I guess.
yeah,
But I mean, it's a definite rewatch. You can rewatch it several times and find new stuff because the frame is just oversaturated with detail.
oh yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, it's incredible. It's one of the most impressive things I've ever seen.
yeah. And again, and I think that's why I did enjoy it, is that it was so visually impressive. But Jesus Christ, yeah.
Yeah,
With that being said, buddy, are you ready to wrap up?
I am. We've probably talked in circles about it enough. But I love it. I love this movie. I think it's awesome. But it's it's hard. It's hard to recommend.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I may talk to Mom about it some more tomorrow, but yeah, yeah, I have nothing else to say, unfortunately.
Okay.
Other than I did enjoy it. I did enjoy the movie.
Yeah.
But yeah. So Jeremy, are you ready to hear what you picked for next week?
Yeah. Yeah. By the way, those listening, I picked a number. I have no idea what it's talking about.
Yes. So I really needed to figure out a movie that had a plot.
Yep.
I was like,
We've done 2 in a
we
row.
do not, we don't need to do 2 movies in a row that do
Okay.
not have a plot. And also, I needed an English speaking film. I didn't want to do a foreign language film yet. So I was like, okay, well, what can we do? And so I picked 5. And I let you pick, and this is one you picked. Hopefully it's not on your list, but it's one that we've talked about doing.
I'll have a list, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah. So it's one that we've talked about doing for quite some time. And you know, man, I'm pretty excited.
Okay.
I'm pretty excited because, again, if anyone's forgotten, I'm picking movies specifically in my Criterion collection. So next week, we were talking about David Lynch's Blue Velvet.
Cool. Okay.
Yeah.
Neat.
So I'm gonna be real. There was 3 Lynch films that I picked.
3?
Three. This was one of them. The other 2 would have been cool to talk about.
Dude, how close was I to picking Inland Empire? Was that close?
It was 4.
Wow. Yep.
Yeah. You were pretty close. You know what number 5 was?
What was it?
Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Ah, shit, that would have been fun.
Because I never finished that one. Do you know what 1 was, or would you like to know what 1 was?
Go ahead.
A Hard Day's Night.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
And then of course the Elephant Man as well. So literally, it was Elephant Man, Blue Velvet, Inland Empire.
Empire, man. You know what? You would have been upset at that one because it's another one that's like the plot's sort of like, it's sort of dicey.
But yeah, Blue Velvet. Yeah, Blue Velvet. At least Blue Velvet has a plot. We get to kind of see the seedy underbelly of suburbia.
Yeah.
Which is something that I know people have compared a lot of newer films to, like what Lynch did with Blue Velvet. And all I know is was this the second time he worked with Kyle MacLachlan, or was it the first, or was it Dune and then Blue Velvet?
I don't know. I don't remember when Blue Velvet came out.
Hang on. Everyone, pause. Wait.
But I know that with
86.
Okay. So I know without Blue Velvet, we wouldn't have Twin Peaks.
Yes,
Velvet,
I do know that.
Blue Velvet's sort of the groundwork of Twin Peaks. Blue Velvet is, if you liked a little bit less of like the supernatural stuff, and you really liked the sort of like what goes on behind closed doors in these suburban white picket fence households that's, seedy and weird and sort of scary and a little, unsettling, then that's Blue Velvet. Blue Velvet is that to a T, and probably the most terrifying performance that you'll ever see
from Dennis Hopper.
I mean, holy shit.
Yeah. And it was Dune. It was the first time he worked with Kyle, and then Blue Velvet. Yeah. Yeah, man. I was just like, when I was trying to decide, I was like, fuck it. Well, I'll put 3 Lynch movies because man, now that he's gone, to quote Bradley Cooper, I miss him more than ever. Which is true.
Yeah.
Because we've obviously met David Lynch. But yeah, man, what's one we talked about for a while. I know it was on your list last season.
It was, yeah. Last season, we just.
And I've told this story before, I think. If not, this is how we'll close it out. So I got Blue Velvet, the Criterion, for my birthday one year. With the Bruce Lee box set. My father bought me those.
Nice.
And I don't know if he has ever seen Blue Velvet. So Dad, if you're listening, this will be interesting because I don't think you knew what that movie was. I don't think he's listening. I last time he told me he'd listen to the show, I think he was still back on season 6, so he's
been a while.
He's a little behind, but yeah, man.
That's okay. Yeah, I mean that's typical. I've people have. I remember one year for Christmas, Mom got me Stalker and Solaris, and she's like,
oh, nice.
You know what I mean? So,
yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, yeah, Blue Velvet. That's exciting.
Yeah, I knew you were going to be excited about that.
Yeah, I mean anything works. You know what I mean? I am glad that it's not. I love Inland Empire. 3 in a row. I mean, we'd go insane.
Yeah, that's why I was like, man, it's got to be something. Got to be something with a plot. I mean, honestly, if you had picked Inland Empire, I probably would have still done it.
Okay.
But yeah, because but cool, man.
Yeah.
All right, everyone. Well, we hope you enjoyed this episode on Mad God, and we will see you next week for Blue Velvet.